Rinkcast, what's going on? Welcome. It's been a while. It's been about 10 days or so. My name's Andy Campbell, and welcome to Season 7, Episode 5 of our Chicago Rinkcast. Episode 6, I believe, that we're on right now. At any rate, welcome. We're here to talk about the Hawks. We've got a huge and great agenda tonight, and we've got some of the golden smoothies as well as the regulars here. So welcome, fellas. We'll start with Jeff Osborn. Gate, how are you tonight? How's our favorite goaltender doing?
I'm good. I'm done fighting with Brent Sopel, but I'm good.
Excellent. That is excellent. The electronic communication with lovely Brent. It's been entertaining to read. And the Bardo, how are you, Andrew Bard? What's going on tonight?
All good. How's it going?
We're still here, man. We're still here. Sean Fitzgerald, the fan is cutting off your Cubs hat, but you're looking good, buddy. What's new and exciting in your world?
I did enter a new decade of life. I did join the 40 and over club, so I guess I'm a golden smoothie now. I'm not sure if that's what you were referring to.
I don't know what I was doing.
I was going to dye my hair like this for tonight's podcast, but I decided I wanted to keep the toner ink in my printer. So
kind of looked like Luke Richardson in that pitch.
There you go. You don't look a day over 29, Sean. Looking good.
Oh.
So, and I said 29 because now we're going to introduce our 28-year-old Eric Andrews. How are you doing this evening, my friend? Card collector extraordinaire and content editor. What's up?
Just trying to recover from some Twitter disagreements about the great Jackson Stauber.
Oh, God.
Which I will have. I'm working on a piece about the curious case of Jackson Stauber. So.
Yeah, folks, if you're on the wrong side of that argument, it's time to find a new hobby, by the way. Let's just throw that out there for starters. Hockey might not be your thing. Just saying.
And asking if you're related to someone apparently is an insult. Just letting everyone know that. So
okay, noted. All right. Well, anyway, folks, we got a good agenda for you tonight. We want to talk about a few things. We want to start off with the 2010 case that unfortunately is back in the headlines again. We want to talk about Connor Murphy, Blackhawks defenseman Connor Murphy, who's not off to the best start. Then we want to touch base on the rookies. Want to touch base on Bedard, Reichel, Korchinski, and maybe Kaiser if we feel like it. And then let's go around the league for a little bit and see what's going on. We don't know what's going on with the Edmonton Oilers. They are brutal right now. Patrick Kane's name keeps resurfacing. A lot of talk about net guards with a recent incident. So we got a packed show for you, which will be great. But we're going to start off with what's going on with the Blackhawks in the news right now as far as off the ice, and it's not great news again. The news that there is another plaintiff suing the Chicago Blackhawks for their negligence in the Brad Ulrich incident in 2010, a sexual assault case. This plaintiff has said that he was abused by Brad Aldrich. This is another hockey player that is known as one of the Black Aces. What are the Black Aces in hockey? They are players that travel with the team during the playoffs that are not rostered. They're rostered in Rockford, but they travel with the team and they practice with the team, and then they wear suits in the press box, all for a good experience. And in 2010, it actually ended up being a tragic experience for at least two of these people, Kyle Beach being one of them and John Doe. So this is in the news again, folks. It's awful. It's not good. It is a cruel reminder, as Mark Lazarus tweeted the other day, while we're all trying to celebrate a new beginning for the Blackhawks and Connor Bedard jerseys are flying off the shelves. Just a reminder of a very dark past. But so I guess what I wanted to open up the floor for discussion is a lot of this is people are talking, want to know if there's going to be additional punishment, want to know what's going to happen in this case. And a lot of accusations that the NHL failed to punish the Blackhawks accordingly, and referencing other punishments, most notably the Ottawa Senators, who lost draft picks recently for something completely unrelated. And anyway, a lot of tough emotions about this, as something of this nature will always bring about. But Shawnee, you talk about this a lot. You and I have certainly been in conversations a lot. What's your take on what's going on and what is going to happen out of this?
So I think John Doe number one was named in the Kyle Davidson original lawsuit. He was a witness. He was also named in the Block and Jenner report when it first came out, or his alias was used, John Doe number one. So he was a part of this. It wasn't it wasn't like his story wasn't known in the Block and Jenner report. Now, I think the player is probably in a good headspace right now, and like Kyle Beach was, in order to bring this lawsuit. And I think the course of action, the NHL is probably not going to do anything else because there's no new, it's nothing additional to what the Block and Jenner report initially revealed. I also think in the collective bargaining agreement between the NHL Players Union and the owners, that there's only that you can only fine organizations monetarily for off the ice issues. So that's why the Blackhawks didn't lose draft picks and things like that. I've been trying to confirm that fact, but the CBA is so long and I haven't had the time to read all of it. And then Emily Kaplan said in her most recent article on this that she does not believe the NHL is going to levy any more fines or any other punishment against the Blackhawks, but she does raise the point that the return of Stan Bowman, John McDonough, and Joel Quenneville to the NHL is getting a lot murkier now that other players are coming out and saying that Kyle Beach wasn't just the only one, and that this player also reported it. More people knew about it. So,
yeah,
I think the one thing that's going to – hopefully the Blackhawks will settle with this young man. He'll hopefully find his peace and be able to semblance of somewhat of a normal life after experiencing this. And then hopefully this puts the nail in the Joe Quenneville, Stan Bowman ever coming back to the NHL coffin. Yeah. I think they should be never allowed to come back to the NHL.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good analysis, Sean, and thanks for that. Now, just to refresh your memories, folks, the punishments for the people that were involved in the Chicago Blackhawks were fined $2 million by the NHL, and anyone involved who failed to act, John McDonough, Stan Bowman, and Joe Quenneville, have been removed from the NHL. And Sean, to your point, that might be permanent now.
Yeah,
there might not be any coming back for those folks. So that was the punishment levied. Bardo, was the punishment at the time and maybe there's no punishment that is ever going to, ever make anyone feel good about this. But do you see the Blackhawks facing additional punishment, or is this going to settle outside of court, as a lot of people are suggesting?
I think it's going to get settled outside of court, and I think if I believe Sean is accurate about the CBA, I don't think there's going to be further punishment at all. And I think it doesn't surprise me that another plaintiff has stepped forward. Wouldn't surprise me if down the road a third, maybe a fourth. I just think it could continue, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think the punishment is is over and done with. I don't think there's anything they can do other than settle and hope it goes away. But really that's it. I mean, it's an unfortunate situation, but I just don't think there's anything further that the NHL can do.
Yeah. I mean, the further punishment is the Blackhawks will probably be paying.
Well, yeah. And I think I think the allegations and whatever it is, I mean, it's punishing the brand, because right now I don't think there's anybody left in terms of, and that's including the unfortunate passing of Rocky Wirtz. Who's left? Who was there at that time?
Right.
So it's like you're punishing
including any of the players. They're all gone.
Yeah, it's like when the NCAA ends up, suspending a program, or giving them a what do you call it? A ban from postseason in 2030 when there was something that happened in 2020. I mean, no one was there at the time, so it's like, why are you making these kids suffer? Yeah. So I think the brand is already going to be further stained, but I just don't think there's going to be anything like a loss of draft picks or anything. Maybe there's a fine, but I highly, highly doubt it.
No, and I'm going to turn to the gatekeeper on that. Gate, there's a lot of yahoos out there right now saying, well, that's not fair. The Blackhawks should have been punished with draft picks. Now they've got Bedard. They should have never been awarded Bedard based on this. Talk to me, buddy.
Well, I mean, if there was going to be more punishment, it would have been monetarily. It wouldn't have been, draft picks. It would have been something they're not going to take something away that, that basically takes away from the on ice product for something that is not an on ice situation. That's just not going to happen. But the same yahoos that are out there screaming and yelling about the Blackhawks didn't get enough punishment, They're just sore asses because Connor Bedard ended up on the Blackhawks. Like we said before, if it was Adam Fantilli and they picked him second overall, they wouldn't be complaining about this. They're just complaining because they wanted their team to get Connor Bedard, and Connor Bedard's with the Blackhawks now. Now, if you really want to get mad, let's look at Kevin Cheveldayoff. How come he's still in the league? He was part of the Blackhawks front office when this stuff happened. He's still a general manager in the NHL. How come no one is in an uproar over this? How come you don't hear about it every time there's a punishment? How come Kevin Cheveldayoff's still in here? Because no one cares. No one truly, really cares about Kyle Beach or John Doe number 2. They don't. Not these people that are yelling on Twitter. There's other people, I'm sure, friends, family, and people who don't even know them but do care. There are people who care. But those aren't the ones who are out there screaming and yelling and making a big deal about this. The people that are screaming and yelling about this are sore asses on Twitter who complain about everything and don't really care about what's going on. That's just the bottom line. That's what's going on. And the second part of it is, like Shawnee said, this is all stuff. This is not new information. The only thing new about this is it's a new lawsuit. It's a lawsuit because this player wants compensation, and he damn well deserves compensation. So let him get it.
Yeah.
But this is not new. This is no new information that came out. This is all the same stuff that was in the report. It was all well known. And at the time, all these people who are going to be in an outrage didn't say anything about, well, what about John Doe number 2? Did he get his justice? Nobody said it. Yep. Nobody said it. So
Mark,
there's
by the way, Mark
huge difference.
Mark Bergevin got to keep his job too with Montreal, and
now
he's senior advisor to the general manager of the Kings, and he was the AGM who replaced Cheveldayoff when he left.
Excellent point. And these are all points that if you really cared, you'd be screaming about these things too. How come Kevin Cheveldayoff still in the league? How come Mark Bergevin's still in the league? Nobody really truly cares. They just care about hating the Blackhawks. And fine, you want to hate the Blackhawks, hate the Blackhawks. But this is stupid. It's a dumb argument. It's just stupid. You know, this guy deserves his compensation. Let him have his piece. Like Sean says many, many times, let Kyle Beach have his piece. Let John Doe number 2 have their piece. And Brad Aldrich, he could burn in hell. I mean, honestly, the guy's a piece of crap. So like that all being said, like that's just the bottom line. That's just how it is.
Yeah. I mean, the guys that knew are gone. And the guys that, in a sense, passed the trash, basically letting Aldrich move on with his life and move on to other avenues of hockey where his habits continued and he harmed more people.
Yeah, and then he was arrested finally and now he's a registered sex offender.
Yeah, which is bad. Eric, do you have any thoughts on this matter at all, or any of the, as far as additional punishment, things that the Hawks will be facing, how this may unfold?
Yeah, I mean, I would just echo a lot of what you guys said. Really, the only thing I would add is kind of going back to the outrage online about people saying, well, they should have, they should lose draft picks now. They should have lost them before. And you guys kind of touched on this. But what's important to remember is, again, this is an off-ice situation that was purely hurting the Blackhawks organization. This was not detrimental to other franchises in the league. That's why you're seeing the Senators getting punished in the Dadonov situation, is because that had an effect on other teams in the league, and it was related to the competition within the league. Yeah. Whereas this was something that was off ice, purely in-house with the Blackhawks. So it's not affecting anybody else in the league. So that's why there's no, competitive punishment in that regard. So I think that's just, something that people kind of need to understand, is that it, like you guys said, it's on ice versus off ice. It's a completely different situation.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't exactly know, what was going on with the Ottawa Senators, were just punished by the NHL, and were punished a future first-round draft pick, which will be in one of the next 3 drafts. And I believe that the Senators get to choose what that is. They were trying to trade a player named Evgeny Dadonov, and they were trying to do it to get to a cap threshold. They tried to trade him twice without properly notifying teams of his 10-team no-trade clause, or his 10-team no-trade list, because he had a modified no-trade clause. And the last team that they tried to trade him to, in Anaheim in 2022, the deal was already done, and they failed to tell Anaheim Anaheim was one of the. They were one of the teams
what
on
it
the
was.
list. Yeah.
He actually ended up getting traded to Vegas, and he
Right.
got traded to Vegas.
Yeah.
And when the no trade came through, there were questions that were asked: who was on the no trade list, whether it was a 10, and it wasn't properly. I don't think it was properly vetted to Vegas. So then Vegas then tried to trade him to Anaheim.
That's
and
what happened.
Anaheim was on his no trade list.
On his no trade list.
But Vegas did not understand that Anaheim was on that list because they were not made aware of it.
Yeah, because Ottawa did not disclose that information, which they were responsible to do.
Yes.
And in the league bylaws, that is punishable by the loss of draft picks. So it's a like we talked about, it's a transactional issue. So, this whole well, the Blackhawks should have been punished draft picks. We're talking about apples and oranges here.
Oranges, yeah.
I mean, that's
right. And Arizona got punished several years ago because their general manager at the time was putting players through extra prospective draft picks through extra workouts, which was illegal according to the CBA. So that's why they got punished draft picks too. So it's all on the ice stuff, like Eric said, the competitive advantage.
Right. So, so at any rate, a very sad story that continues to be around. I do hope if there are additional plaintiffs and, that they come to a point where they have the courage to go after the Hawks about this, that they do it.
It was a terrible situation. Like, it's awful. It's
awful.
You don't want your kid to go through anything like this. Like, It's just horrible. It really is. Like, I just feel horrible about it. It makes me ill. Like, I didn't wear my Blackhawks stuff for a long time. Yeah. And now I probably won't wear it again for a while. Just because, like, how can I proudly go out there after knowing what they did? That they kind of just put winning ahead of it, ahead of these people's lives. It's not good.
Well, that's why also Quenneville and Bowman are not going to be in the league probably anymore, because
I don't think
wants to have their kids.
No,
you have to trust them.
No, after this second suit, I don't think there's any coming back.
No,
for John McDonough, for Stan Bowman, for Joel Quenneville, and rightly so. I think that's it. And if Joel Quenneville, because of this, forfeits his spot as a Hall of Fame coach, if he's not inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, so be it. That's just kind of the way that it goes. So,
yeah. There was a lot of missteps and a lot of people, and not to retract back to what I was talking about, but there's people that are still in the league that were part of that, and there's not a lot of outrage over that. So,
yeah, no, that's for sure. Well, good luck to John Doe, and we mean that sincerely, and hope this works out for you. And all the props to you in the world for having the courage to tell your story and to seek justice for it. So moving 100%. On. Yep, 100%. So moving on to the 2023-24 Chicago Blackhawks, the rebuilding Chicago Blackhawks. I want to talk about a player real quick and open up with in June of 2017, the Blackhawks were in cap shedding mode, as they were for so many years under the guidance of Stan Bowman, who we just referenced, who will not be welcome back to the NHL anytime soon. And it's not necessarily because he was a lousy tactical GM, which he was, but along those lines. So they traded Nicholas Hjalmarsson, a fan favorite, an absolute dynamic defender, the man who was very beloved in Chicago, to the Arizona Coyotes for Laurent Dauphin. Remember that guy?
Ooh.
And Connor Murphy, who you all know. Connor Murphy now, I believe, 6th or 7th season with the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, Connor Murphy has an A in his sweater.
Wait. You forgot Lori Koprovsky. He was in that trade, wasn't he? Lori Koprovsky.
Cool.
Yes, I'm right about that. I am definitely right about that.
Okay.
Confirm it for me. I'm going to confirm it.
All right. Google. The price of knowledge is cheap. Google.
I will Google.
At any rate, Connor Murphy, locker room. Here we go. I'll be just very honest about him right now. Locker room character guy, has an A on his jersey. He's 30 years old right now. The media loves him because he's a gentleman. He's got a good soundbite. Ladies and gentlemen, Connor Murphy stinks. I'm sorry. Like, why don't we just come out and call it what
Next
it is?
topic.
Connor Murphy stinks. I mean, like, what are we spend so much time and energy talking about Seth Jones and talking about, Wyatt Kaiser's not ready and the D and Vlasic looks great and all that. Connor Murphy's just been dreadful. And has he ever been good as a Blackhawk? So let's discuss. Eric, I want to know what Eric's thinking. He's not at that marination point, folks. He's going to get there. But he still probably has thoughts on this. Connor Murphy is what, like -9 right now? He's taking horrible penalties because he's not moving his feet. He's crap. Talk to me.
He has had a very rough season. There's no question about that. I would say throughout the course of his time with the Blackhawks, there have definitely been some years that have been better than others. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, probably a little bit more bad than good. I think it's also, somewhat important to keep in mind that he's never really been on a competitive team in his career. So there is kind of only so much he can do. But yeah, I mean, you want to cheer for the guy. You want to root for him. He's a good guy. Everybody likes him. But yeah, I mean, he just has not had a very good season this year at all. And I feel like now that we're kind of starting to get to that point with the Blackhawks where things are at least trending in the right direction, clearly building in the right direction, that that's kind of becoming a little bit more apparent. Whereas, the last few seasons, well, maybe he wasn't great, but I mean, nobody was. Like, everybody was bad. So, yeah, I don't know. It's tough, and I do think that this year has been probably his worst with the team so far, for sure.
Well, I mean, I'll give him credit that he played 80 games last year, which is the most that he's ever played, in a Blackhawk uniform, and he stayed healthy during a tank year. I mean, I guess that's good, but it's very frustrating. I mean, the other thing too is that I don't necessarily see Connor Murphy as a bargaining chip at any point for a trade. Would anyone be interested in Connor Murphy come the trade deadline?
I mean, I think a couple years ago we were kind of looking at it as being, he was one of their better assets because he still was, a little bit on the younger side, was cost controlled, and you could at least see, the skills that he can provide.
Yeah.
But in the time since, really all that's happened is he's just gotten older. So, I mean, the value is definitely diminished at this point. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, a couple years ago, there was definitely talk about, should they move him? Should they try to cash out on him? Whereas now I don't know that you'd really get much more than like a mid-round pick for him. But going back, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say when the trade first happened, even though it was very difficult for people to accept and kind of move on from, franchise icon like Hjalmarsson. I mean, I'm as big of a Hjalmarsson fan as anybody. And even though it was hard, you at least understood it because Hjalmarsson clearly was at that point where it's like, okay, like he's gone at this point. So the fact that they were able to at least get, a legitimate NHL defenseman for him that was young and could kind of play a similar type of role, albeit not as effectively, but still a similar, kind of filling that hole, it at least made sense. But yeah, I mean, obviously since then, it's kind of just gone downhill.
And the Arizona fans thought that, that they totally fleeced the Blackhawks getting Hjalmarsson. And unfortunately, Hjalmarsson, no one wanted to see him go. I don't think anyone knew how close to the end of his career that he actually was.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, Gate, do you have any thoughts on Connor Murphy? Does anyone, let's get some banter going. I mean, I'm very frustrated now that we're basically paying a guy to hit the cap floor. I mean, it's $4.4 million a year for Connor Murphy. I mean, I don't think anyone would spend that money on Connor Murphy.
Well, I mean, if the Blackhawks, retained, maybe. The problem is, and this happens in a lot of trades, is he's compared to the player he was traded for. which is Nicholas Hjalmarsson, which is one of the best warrior defensemen the Blackhawks have ever had. Like, that's a high bar to hit. What was Connor Murphy? He was probably a good middle pair defender. When they got him, decent. Since then, he's just a guy. He's a defenseman. Maybe, a 3-4 or, 3, not even a 3, maybe a 4-5-6 guy. Bottom of the,
I'm done comparing him to Hjalmarsson. Like, I never really did that. I just, ultimately that trade was a guy for a guy, ultimately.
But you're going to get that because they gave away a fan favorite that was, who he was. You're going to get the same thing. Like, they trade Kirby Dach, the guy who's going to always get it. I mean, it's hard to do defensemen and forwards, but you trade 2 defensemen, one for each other. Like, they're going to get compared to each other. They're just, just the way it's going to be.
And at the move at the time, it was like Andy said in the open, you had to get younger and cheaper. Yep. And that's what they were trying to do. So Stan Bowman was trying to bet on potential of Connor Murphy, who was younger and cheaper than Nicholas Hjalmarsson. And then last year at the trade deadline, teams were like, okay, am I going to take Jake McCabe, who's a little bit older, but for about the same salary for about the same amount of years, or I'm going to take Connor Murphy? And everybody Toronto chose Jake McCabe. So that shows you his value.
Well, remember also, I was going to say Bowman was also trying to keep the championship window open at the time too.
Yeah,
so
right.
And it was the Bowman special. Like, you get a guy, you have no idea if he's any good or not, and you re-sign him. He did that with Artem Anisimov, Connor Murphy. Like, those are 2 guys that he paid as soon as he got them. Yeah. And you had no idea they were any good.
That's our boy Reichel, man. He brought that up several times about that. Like, what was Stan doing? Like, he's trading for these guys, and then he signs them to long-term extensions before they even hit the ice for the Blackhawks, and then you find out they're bunk, and then you can't get rid of them. That's right. That's a lot.
No, I'm not going to go on this. I'm not going to Strom out on Connor Murphy here, for example. Like, I'm not all of a sudden going to just start freaking out every time I see him on the ice. I think it's just.
You mean the Washington Capitals' leading goal scorer, Dylan Strome?
Right. Says everything you need to know about the Washington Capitals right now. Dylan Strome.
Hey, he could be on the San Jose Sharks. All right.
If you're wondering why the Capitals are not good this year, look at who their leading scorer is. I mean, at any rate, I think it's just one of those. There's 2 more years after this one with Connor Murphy on the roster for $4.5 million, and I don't think he's looked worse than he does right now. He's 30 years old. He's gonna get hurt again.
What are they gonna do? Like, who's there? They're gonna have to spend money to replace him because the young defensemen they have in the system aren't ready to replace him yet.
No, he's untradeable. He's just gonna be there, and I'm getting impatient and annoyed. That's all it is. Because he's
here's a question.
He's not fun to watch.
Here's a question: at the end of the season, is he a buyout candidate?
Is he a buyout candidate?
Who are you going to replace him with? There's nobody in the system ready to take his spot.
No, but I mean, it would be nice. It would be nice if you start gaining traction. I think this offseason, I mean, he's going to be coming back. You're not going to be doing anything with it. But the following season, when the team starts to get better and there's traction, and there might be a UFA market where there's some attractive assets, and you're still saddled with him, it's going to be pretty annoying. And by that time, he might be a 6th defenseman. You're paying $4.5 million, and he's never been on a winning team because he can't be on a winning team because he's not good enough to be on a winning team.
But let's just say, for argument's sake, that Kaiser somehow turns a corner and he starts to, develop a little bit. Vlasic continues his progression, and then you have Phillips up here who's made an impression. That's 3 guys who are more or less defensive defensemen guys. I mean, is that a reason to not try to maybe buy out Connor Murphy? Because you have the cap space.
You still need to hit the floor. And think about it. In like 3 or 4 years, they have how many assets? So you could package Connor Murphy and so many of these draft picks to move him off your books. So
you could do that. You're right.
I think it's premature to buy him out.
It's a better option to retain half his salary because if you're going to buy him out, you're going to pay for him anyway, and you're going to pay for him for double the term that he's got left. So what you do is you retain half of his salary. You send him to some team where he could be a third pair defenseman or number 7 defenseman for $2 million. A guy with a lot of, he's got a lot of miles on him.
But he's experienced, and everyone's looking for that.
He's experienced. Yeah, sure. Yeah, and he could be a number 7. He could be a, I know I'm going to use this term lightly, but he could be a mentor to a younger guy. Just on how to be a professional.
Let me clarify that is obviously the best option. I just don't know if somebody's going to give you anything for him. I mean, even a 4th round pick.
You don't have to. All you got to do is they have how many draft picks? You literally can. How did they move Brian Bickle's contract? You gave up Teuvo Teravainen. Now you have draft picks that you could, which is a horrible deal, Stan Bowman special. But you have draft picks now that you could package with Connor Murphy to trade him, or you launder him through Arizona like everybody else does. There's going to be a way to get rid of his contract, or you retain half his salary, like Gate said. I think you can only retain 2, and they still have Jake McCabe for another 2 years on the books. So you got to at least wait 2 years if you're not going to retain somebody else and trade him.
I think there's nothing that's untradeable anymore. There's nothing that's untradeable anymore, really.
Brent Seabrook got traded.
Seabrook got traded. There are so many contracts out there that should have not been traded. It should have been untradeable, and they've been traded.
Yeah.
Hey, at least Arizona won't have to print up a new Connor Murphy jersey. They'll just bring out the old one. When they launder,
you got to get the Kachina one, the Kachina jersey. I don't think you ever wore that one.
I still have a Slava Kozlov one.
Not bad. For the record, Lori Korpikoski or whatever Bardo slowed down our conversation for. I don't even know if that person exists.
No, he does. He's on the Dallas Stars now. I get my Loris and Lawrence all mixed up. So
yeah, he was with the Rangers, Coyotes, Oilers, Stars.
Hey, it's like Gerald. It's like Gerald and Gerard. You get
Gerald and Gerard happens all the time.
I pulled a Sean.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Connor Murphy's aside. Let's do some rookie check in here. Let's start with the Korchman. Korchmania is here to stay, folks, for the first year.
Woof.
Yeah, he's struggling. To say the least. Defense is not his thing yet, but he's burned through his 9 games. He's at 11 games, so he will be with the Chicago Blackhawks for the rest of the season.
No, I think Eric and I touched on
this. They can still send him back.
They can
exactly. They still can send him back.
They just burned a year of VLC.
He burned a year of his, So he's now he's got 2 years remaining on his contract after this year, no matter what they do with him. One thought, and I want to throw this out there. I actually think, does it make sense to at least loan him to Team Canada for the World Junior Tournament? Thoughts on that? We will go with Eric.
I think the only way I could see it happening is if they get to that point on the calendar and he has not been playing well for the Blackhawks, doesn't have any confidence, and is kind of looking lost out there, and they want to give him the opportunity to regain that confidence while still being able to have him come back. Like we were just saying, if he is in over his head at that point and they send him to Seattle, well, he's gone for the rest of the season. He can't come back. But if they just loaned him for the World Juniors, then he would come back to the Blackhawks after that. So that's really the only way that I would see that happening, is if he's just really struggling at the NHL level, needs to regain his confidence. Maybe they say, well, this is a good opportunity for him to, play some dominant hockey and get that confidence back, and then he can come back here and see where he's at. But, even if he's playing how he is right now, I don't see them being willing to take that risk.
Really? Huh. Interesting.
Not after what happened to Kirby Dach. Nope.
See, I don't know. I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd worry about that. I mean, you're playing hockey.
Yeah, but they took a lot of shit for what happened to Kirby Dach, and they don't want to. They got enough negative PR on this organization. The last thing they want is Kevin Korchinski to go out there and rip up his knee or whatever. Like, the chance that could happen for him not playing, I don't know that the bang is worth the buck.
Well, he could very well do that if he goes back to Seattle too.
So I think
I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, so you're saying he's here to stay.
I think the thing about I was gonna say, I think the thing about Doc is that people saw him much more as a franchise savior than what they see Korchinski as. So I just think that, people panicked. He broke his wrist, whatever. It was like, oh my God, this was our one young big time player that we're trying to develop into, God willing, the next, Taves or whatever it is. And I just feel like I think people had too much stock in him and were freaking out about his injury. Because like you said, the injuries can happen whether he's playing in Seattle, Chicago, World Juniors, or on the moon. He can get hurt. He's playing hockey.
Yeah.
So,
or walking down the steps at a concert.
Exactly. Yeah. And or
Crawford,
so
yeah.
but
Brian Leach getting out of a cab in New York, slipping on
exactly. So I just think people, I don't think that's going to be a concern. I think people freaked out a little bit because of what they thought and what they hoped Doc would be.
Yeah.
Well, and the Blackhawks compounded the issue by rushing Doc back.
Right.
Like he shouldn't have played because I believe they said he was playing with pain. He should have been pain free. Like if he was, as Bardo said, so much of a savior, like they should have treated him as such, and they didn't. They rushed him back because they needed something for that season because they were still trying to win because it was still in the quote unquote championship window, even though it was firmly closed in our opinion. But I agree with you, Andy. I say send him to the World Junior Championship.
So.
Why not? Let him go dumb. If anything, it just helps. Maybe he comes back with more confidence in his game, or maybe the things he's trying to do at the NHL level that aren't working necessarily, like positioning or things like that, he can work on with competition that's more his skill level.
Look, if you're eligible and you have an opportunity to represent your country and you get asked to do that, why not? I mean,
that's true too.
The Blackhawks aren't winning anything this year. If he's gone, I don't know how long he would be gone for. Let me just guess. Let's just say roughly a month. That's fine. Honestly, it opens a door for somebody else to potentially take a spot. Not take a spot, but I'm just saying develop on the NHL level.
Yeah, maybe we get a look at Nolan Allen or
Nolan Allen, exactly.
Or Isaac Phillips or one of those other defensemen down at Rockford that maybe has earned the opportunity to get some time in the NHL.
I just don't see the downside. I mean, injury risk is not a downside to me. It's not even a factor because he can get hurt tomorrow, God forbid. But
yeah.
And hopefully this coaching staff knows that, like, if he suffers a major injury, that there's no need to rush him back.
Yeah. And quite frankly, this is experience for him to play at a high level. I mean, he played last year, I think, in the World Juniors, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And I don't remember if he was on the top pair or not, but this is an opportunity for him to maybe be that top pair guy. So,
and playing meaningful games.
I think that's important for a kid's development. So let him do that. And that's a confidence booster to me. So I would say let him do it without hesitation.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's been done before and not just by the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
I think the Oilers, did it with Jordan Eberle one year.
The Hawks did it with the defenseman Jeremy Colleton hated it and ultimately shipped out of town.
Yoki Haru.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that
guy.
They
They cut his minutes and then sent him down to the World Junior Championships and then sent him to Rockford when he came back and never played him again.
Mm-hmm.
Let's good thoughts on that, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they will. Let's shift gears to Lukas Reichel. Lukas Reichel finally got a point. Still looks lost out there, doesn't he? Gate. Can Lukas Reichel turn it around this year at all? I mean, or is this just going to be? Are we just going to see a lost dog play 80 games and get 15 points? I mean, I don't. Even his assist was a second assist. He was, he was in the zone, but I mean, it really didn't. He didn't. No big flash or anything.
Yeah, and then they put him at center, and now he's not at center, and it's like they're just screwing with the guy at this point in time. Like, like this whole he's got nothing left to prove crowd is killing me. because he does have something left to prove. He's got to prove that he's actually an NHL regular. Like he hasn't proven that yet. So why is he being thrown in the lineup like that? I mean, we said it last year when he was, he had that little stretch where he had a bunch of points. He's the best Blackhawks prospect in the system at the moment, blah, blah, blah. You got to be able to play in the NHL. You got to be able to hit the corners. He's not a physical player. He's having problems with that. He's not playing, he wasn't playing center in the NHL level. He's playing center in the AHL level. They're just screwing with the guy. Like, I don't understand why his development is the way it is. Right. They're playing around with him. They're dicking around with his minutes. They're dicking around with his position. Like, they're not doing this guy any favors. They're not putting him in a position to succeed. Now, they're going to get to a point where they're going to probably have to send him down. And when they send him down, it's going to be because he's bad, not because it's doing him any good. It's because they can't do anything with him at this level. It's going to be a last-ditch effort. Like, it's getting worse.
Yeah. I guess what would be a position for him to succeed with this club, though, right now? I mean, there's nobody.
I mean, right now, if he's not playing well, send him back to Rockford. Send him back to Rockford. Let him play meaningful minutes. They got a good team down there. Let him go back down there, get a little bit of confidence back. If you want to bring him back, bring him back. But, right now, he's just floundering around out there. He's basically invisible. Yeah. For almost every single game he's played.
Didn't they do that with Brandon Saad? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, except the center part. But I mean, Brandon Saad got sent down. He came up and was a little bit of a hot shot, and he had some early success. Then went into this huge slump, looked completely lost out there. I mean, look, physically he was more mature than what Reichel is right now. But I think sending him down was probably the best thing for him. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know. Will they do it? Will they actually send him down though?
I think it.
And then who comes up? What weapon?
I don't think.
They don't have a weapon. They don't have one. It would be a state
like they're gonna call up Anders Bork or Bjork or whatever his name is.
Oh, good heavens!
They'll call up Gates guy so he can play some minutes. Maybe they, I don't know. He is lost. He gets checked off the puck, especially when he's stick handling, trying to go to the net. He gets bumped off the puck. Like he's got I don't know, maybe Anders Sorensen can figure something out with him, rebuild his confidence a little bit, and he can come back up.
Yeah, feed him.
Well, I mean, that was his coach last year when he was, playing well. Yeah. So put him back on the road.
When he came up last year, mid-season, he did pretty well. I mean, people were
talking
about screwing up.
There was also no expectations on him last year. Yeah. Like there was expectations, but everybody was still focused on Kane. Everyone was still focused on Taves until Kane was gone. Like there was other veterans to shoulder like the spotlight. Now it's Reichel, Connor Bedard, Wyatt Kaiser, Korchinski. Everybody, we're talking about him. Everybody else is talking about him. We're not focusing on Ryan Donato or Corey Perry or any of those guys. We're focusing on all the young guys because we want them to take the next step. And maybe that's just too much for them.
And Reichel's first game in Wing this season was against Florida, right? If I remember correctly. I mean, he actually looked like pretty good. He looked more relaxed. I mean, he was sort of initiating the play. I mean, granted, like you said, Shawnee, is that he kept on getting pushed off the puck. I just think it's going to happen no matter where he plays because he just needs to spend a year in the gym. But yeah, I mean, look, maybe Wing it's less pressure. I mean, it's less responsibility. Maybe we've all said that's probably where he should be. So maybe that's just where he needs to be.
But it's also the old adage too, like the league has seen him now. Like he did well. The league had not seen him. Now the league's seen him. Now he's been around. Now he's a name. Now everybody knows who he is. Now they know he's not a physical player. He could be pushed off the puck. Like he was kind of like an enigma. Nobody knew really much about him when they brought him up before. Now that he's been around, the expectations, they've had time to prepare for him. They figured out that they figured out that this is how you defend him, and it's been working.
This is how you defend him. 6'5", 140, soaking wet.
Right. I want to be
enigma.
I do want to be hopeful, but he's just not creating out there. And I don't know. I mean, obviously nobody loves his line mates. I mean, there's really if A2 is your center, I mean, that's obviously.
And he already got sat down because he wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing out there. So.
No,
I think that guy played center less than Reichel has in his career.
Yeah, he's not a center. I mean, they should just put Tyler Johnson there.
We did say on a podcast very early in the season that at some point you are going to see Reichel on Bedard's wing.
Why not now?
It's probably time to do it. I don't know if that'll solve anything. I mean, neither one of them are these physically dynamic specimens that are going to go win puck battles. You're definitely going to have to Foligno out there with one of them.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna help anything. I don't think you're not opening up anything. What is he doing? Like you said, he's not creating anything. So you're just putting him on there because he's one of their top prospects. That's not a good reason to put him out there. You got to put him out there. If you're gonna put him out there on that first line, you got to put him out there because he's going to do something, not just because he's a guy who you drafted in the first round and that's where you think he's got to go. And that's what's happening here. A lot of people are just penciling him in on that line just because he was a former first-round draft pick. That's not how it works. Like, you have to create something. You have to do something. You have to be dangerous. Like, he's not. He's not been any of that.
No, he's been pretty disappointing.
But at a certain point, it might be worth a try. I mean, because I know, look, neither Bedard.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely try it. Go ahead.
I mean, look. When Kane and Taves first came up, I mean, neither were physically and imposing. I mean, Kane never became that way, but Taves still was. That guy had the weakest shot I've ever seen when he was a rookie. He looked like he was like laboring every time he took a shot.
Well, I mean, if you do it, if you try it, it's not like you're screwing up the chemistry of all the other dynamic lines they have.
Yeah, and it's not a permanent thing. I mean, you could do that and put somebody who might be a little bit more physical on their wing to maybe create some space. But I mean, it's not a permanent thing.
I don't know.
Sure, the middle of the game, throw them out there. But thinking you're just going to throw them out, I don't really honestly don't think it's going to do much. But sure, if you want to try it, go ahead. But don't expect that that it's all of a sudden going to unlock.
Let me tell you something. Yeah, look, if it gets him to actually score, it gets him in a rhythm, and then you could maybe move him around because eventually you'll need to spread out the scoring. I'm okay with that because at least it gets his
scoring
up, and then just what's that?
Well, honestly, I mean, I don't.
What's scoring?
We just saw 11 games of Lucas Reichel, and he's got a secondary assist. All right, he's in the minus, but everyone's going to be in the minus on the Blackhawks this year. Every single forward, that's going to happen. You give him 10 more games, and if he has 2 assists after 21 games, you got to send him back down.
You got to 100%.
I mean, I think you give him the next 10, and almost kind of hey, let's see if he can. And if he comes to life, I don't know if he gets 3 goals in 10 games or gets 6 points in 10 games, something of that level, then you go, okay, let's keep it going. But he seems like he's running low on time to prove something here. I mean, 11 games and nothing to show for it in their schedule. God, their schedule really doesn't get any easier. I mean, the Panthers are going to get them because they're going to be mad. And then Tampa is just flying around right now.
Yeah.
Even though we kind of thought they were going to dip a little bit, haven't really seen too much of that.
They could always
they're probably going to get shut out by Matt Tompkins.
Yeah,
probably.
Well, that'd be awesome.
Who recorded his first NHL win the other night, boys?
Yeah, not bad. Now, we haven't really gone through a podcast, or if you're a real Blackhawk fan right now, you probably haven't gone through a conversation without talking Connor Bedard. And I just want to make one note of it that
alluding to Matt Tompkins. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, no, Ben Pope. Yeah, Ben Pope mentioned that Bedard is as the third longest shift minutes, I guess you can say, in the NHL. He's staying out there for 60 seconds. Too long. Anyone worried about that? I am not.
Not at this stage. I think the only thing I just don't want it to develop is into a habit. So I think that's really, and I don't think he's too smart for that. So I think he'll adjust. I'm not really worried about it.
He's 19 years old. They have 18.
Remember 18.
Remember when you were at 18? Like you could
Gerald
be up all night.
19-year-old.
Yeah, he was. Jerry. But Jerry and I go way back. I mean, they have to get him, like they literally have to physically pull him off the ice at practice So they're going to try. Like, you think he's going to want to come off the ice during a game?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it's an issue right now.
And playing down in
he's
juniors,
18 years
I
old.
think, yeah, in juniors he was also playing longer shifts, so it's just
If he was 38, yeah, maybe that's an issue. But he's 18.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, that was brief. Let's go around the league for a minute. All right. Let's talk about Patrick Kane.
I just realized I'm going to be 66 when he's 38. So just so you know.
I was at work the other day and people were like, yeah, in 20 years, maybe we'll have flying cars. I'll be 60. All right. Piss off. So
exactly. I digress.
I say all that to say that.
Here's something to think about with the whole Patrick Kane thing. He's going to be cheap. He's not going to cost a lot. I don't think it's necessarily here's the thing. I mean, I forgot who it was. I think it was Dan Rosen today. Wrote an article about the trepidation about signing Patrick Kane, and he actually had some, legitimate background around that. Nick Backstrom had the exact same procedure done and played, the beginning of the season. He came back, did okay, went through all training camp, and is now hurt again, and it's that same hip that's bothering him. So he referenced him, and he referenced Ed Jovanovski, who also had this hip surfacing or resurfacing procedure done at the same age that Patrick Kane just did. And they were pretty much done after that. Like Backstrom, I think everyone's saying his career might be over. So with that is is Patrick Kane going to buck the trend here? Or, I think we talked about, last year we said, even if he did get his hip fixed up, when he gets back, he'll definitely become the highest scoring American of all time. And now there's some nerves. Does anyone have any thoughts around when Kane will go somewhere? Where is it going to be, and will he be that same player? And let's go to Bardo is ready.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a couple things on this one. So first off, enough with him going to the Blackhawks. He's not coming back. And, right. Especially given what recently just came out, the Blackhawks are an organization that are trying to move forward. He is part of the past. He was on the 2010 team. He had his own off-ice issue. We don't need to relive that. We don't need to bring that up. So guess what? He's not coming back. There's no reason. We're trying to go forward as an organization. That said, where does he go from here? I've been on the bandwagon of Detroit. I still think that he's got really that close relationship with DeBrincat. They're off to a pretty good start. They've cooled off a little bit, but I think that it's still close to, I think he still has a home in Chicago. So I think Detroit seems to make sense where he can reunite with DeBrincat, who I don't think he ever wanted to see leave Chicago while he was still here. So I think that's where he ends up. Dark horse, I know he was there last year, would be the Rangers because they are having offensive issues in the top six. So I know they're winning, but Kakko hasn't done anything. He's been garbage. Lafreniere started off first week or two.
Kakko's been caca.
Yeah, exactly. Lafreniere started off pretty well. I mean, he's cooled off a tiny bit.
And that was real bad.
Yeah, that was really bad.
Well, I could have said Enigma, Mr. Enigma, like earlier.
Edward Enigma.
Yeah, exactly, Gate.
Nobody cares.
I get it.
Yeah, Eric, where does Patrick Kane end up? When does it happen, and how is he as a player afterwards?
I'll start with the second part first. I think the conversation that's been going on, with the Backstrom news, and I'm glad that you mentioned that Jovanovski. I heard an interview with him on NHL Network Radio. I think it was last week. And he was kind of talking about how that was almost like a last-ditch effort for him to even just be able to consider playing, because prior to that, he was just dead in the water pretty much. So from everything that has been reported, it sounds like his recovery has gone as well as hoped, if not better than hoped. Mm-hmm. So in that regard, maybe he can get back to being productive. Is he going to be as good as he was previously? Probably not. But I mean, you certainly hope that he could at least be, a serviceable, middle or maybe even top six kind of guy. Whether that'll happen remains to be seen, of course. But as far as a landing spot and when, I mean, it sounds like, the conversations are starting to pick up. I think it was Chris Johnston wrote a piece on The Athletic today talking about that and how he and his agent have begun those conversations with teams and are pretty actively pursuing those conversations and stuff as we speak. So, I think it could definitely be, sometime around Thanksgiving, we could see and hear something there. As far as a landing spot, it sounds like, you hear Detroit, you hear New York, you hear Buffalo, of course, but the two that kind of intrigue me the most, and I think might be the most likely at this point, would be either Florida or Dallas, just kind of where those teams are at and, what type of, things they could use and where he would fit in their lineup and stuff. I think those would be good fits. And selfishly, on behalf of Sean, I mean, if he goes to Dallas, it's basically like he's wearing one of those horrific Blackhawks St. Patrick's Day jerseys.
Oh,
there you go.
I mean, I could wear one if you'd like. I have several.
Yeah, I still think it's hilarious that people think that, like, there's any chance he would end up on the Blackhawks. Why would he come back from surgery to be on a last place team? That would just
Do those
be the
people still believe the Earth is flat too, or?
Yeah, that's true. This is true. There are people out there who think that. So it's like he's going to want to go to a contender, and a contender is going to probably want to add him cheaply to the roster for $1 million or $2 million to add him as a second line or third line player or whatever. The Blackhawks have no need for him, and he has no need for the Blackhawks. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, anyone who thinks that, like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't at all.
Where would you like to see him skate, or where do you think he goes?
I mean, one of the contenders like Dallas or Carolina or something like that. I mean, sure, the Detroit thing sounds enticing, but I don't think Detroit's going to be hanging around long enough for it to really be something. I think they're going to fall off. I mean, Alex DeBrincat is having, a legendary start, but, like, I don't think that's not going to continue. It's going to fall off. So, and they don't have enough around him to really be a contender. So, the Rangers, maybe, I don't know. Maybe he goes back to the Rangers, but it's going to be someone who needs someone like a middle six wing with a lot of experience that can maybe mentor some younger players and pitch in a couple goals here and there. But he's not going to be the guy driving their scoring. It's just not going to be what it is.
No, Carolina is a good call. So
Carolina, we've said Carolina for a while. That'd be a good one. Shawnee, you're sticking with Buffalo?
I'm sticking with the Buffalo Sabres. I think, especially considering his hip and Dan Rosen raising the questions and you guys all talking about his hip, I think he goes to Buffalo this season to prove that he's healthy, to prove that he can still play. Signs a 1-year deal with Buffalo, proves that he can still play. He's got his family there, comfort level there, and then he can go jump to a contender either next season or if he plays well enough, maybe at the trade deadline this year. Buffalo could move him. So I'm sticking with the Buffalo Sabres. I think it just makes the most sense, and that's one of the teams he's considering, especially with you just don't know. Like Dan Rosen wrote the article, and I kind of glanced at it. You just don't know if he's worth the investment. Like if the Dallas Stars invest in him and he's nothing, like you can't just release him. You can't bury him. You've got to play him. And what if he's hurting your team? With the Buffalo Sabres, they've got nothing to lose. He's got nothing to lose. If he rehabs his image, that he's a healthy guy, and then he could still play somewhat at the level that he was at before the injury, then he can go jump to a contender next year. But I think with the questions around his hip and what Rosen raised in his article, say that 3 times fast.
Easy for you to say.
I know, right? That he's been skating and he's been doing stuff on the ice, but he hasn't taken a hit. He hasn't been knocked off the puck. He hasn't been put in the boards. Like, how's his body going to respond to that? And I think being on a contender, they're going to need him to at least play somewhat up to the level he was. Buffalo doesn't need that. Probably the expectation isn't the same. That's why I think the Buffalo Sabres are where he's going to go.
Good call. I threw a dark horse out on Twitter, and I'm going to throw it again. Boston Bruins. I don't see why not. If the Boston Bruins are calling Camp Kane, why he wouldn't think about it or do it. They can fit him under the cap right now. They shed enough cap over the summer. I mean, we're talking about a prorated $1 million 1-year deal for a guy who'd be going to a club that has the defense and has the goaltending well in place right now. Swayman and Ullmark are as good as probably they are the best tandem in the NHL. And right now, and I think that they probably will be for the rest of the year. This team is winning a lot of games 3-1 and 3-2, and they're still winning, and Montgomery has them going, but they're still lacking that offensive punch, and he can do a lot. He could really help them out and get them to where they really need to go at the end of the season. So I'm throwing out Boston. Local bias, sure. Well aware of that. Well aware that I see a lot of Bruins games and talk a lot of Bruins hockey around here, but I just don't see why not Boston. I mean, it actually just makes a lot of sense. You know, maybe he could just be one of those. I played for half original 6 teams, and wow, what a kick that was. So anyway, lots of options. So we've reached an hour, but we want to throw out maybe one more topic. The Edmonton Oilers, what on earth is going on in Edmonton? McDavid got hurt, but he's back now. And they lost to Vancouver the other night.
Badly. They lost badly.
They lost badly. They lost badly, and McDavid lost his mind and actually went after someone. And I think that's because he didn't know. He thought he was losing to Delia. He forgot Delia was in the AHL. And but he just went absolutely bonkers. And what they've got 2 wins.
2 wins.
What happens now?
5
Are they
points.
coming back? Eric, do they come back from this?
They better hope so. But, I mean, based on what we're seeing right now, I don't know how – as it stands right now, I don't see how it changes. You would have to make a trade of some sort. You would have to make a coaching change. You would have to do something because it's clearly not working right now, period. And, you know, to your point, yeah, McDavid was out and he's back now, but I think it's still – fairly apparent he's not at 100%. So, I mean, there is that to, you know, somewhat consider, but it's not just that they're not playing well because he's not at 100%. The whole thing is a disaster.
Yeah.
So something has to change if they want to salvage this season, and it probably has to happen pretty darn soon.
Oh, I want to see this season go on the way it is, and I want to hear the trade rumors of Connor McDavid asking out of Edmonton for next year, like, because it's going to happen at some point.
I kind of hope that he asks out of Edmonton just for fun, just to hear. Like, it would be amazing.
You know, the amazing thing is that, you know, since McDavid has come up with this team, they've either had bad goaltending, bad defense, or both. Yeah. And now it's gotten worse on both of those sides.
Jack Campbell gets waived.
Jack Campbell is gone. Stuart Skinner forgot how to stop the puck. That they are absolutely dreadful in their own end. Every which way.
I think Jay Woodcroft should be updating his resume. Like Eric said, like could they make a trade or fire the coach? The first thing is going to be to fire the coach. That's always the reaction. You always fire the coach first because that's the one thing that you can control without getting another team involved. So
and they might go for your boy. Gerald Gallant might be the guy there.
Yeah. Yeah, Gerald Gallant. Maybe they'll bring in Trent Ronnie. You never know.
Kenny Holland is going to have to – Ken Holland will have to fire the coach soon to try to save his own hide and hope that you know, changes things. Because if not, I mean, they're in cap hell.
Yep.
And if not, I mean, he could be, you know, shown the exit.
Holland and Gallant go back to like their Detroit Red Wings organization years, so there's a big connection there. So that's a possibility.
And I don't think he hasn't coached the Oilers yet.
So that's a huge story in the league right now. The other story that is absolutely unbelievable is 12 goals for Austin Matthews already, 9 of which are even strength.
3 hat tricks.
He has yet to score tonight. Does he hit 70?
I think it's going to come down. It has to end. Like There's no way he's going to go on this pace. There's no way he's going on this pace. So I don't think he's 70.
He'll slow down, but I
but he could hit 55, 60 again.
Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty remarkable. Now, there's one other thing going on that we said that we were going to touch on in the pod. Now, this could take a lot of time, and we have hit an hour, so we can condense some of this. But at the
I
same
think I know
time,
where you're going, and I might have something to add to it, so it may extend it a little bit.
Jonathan Huberdeau getting benched? No, I'm kidding.
It's a little bit deeper than that, Sean.
Oh.
Anyway, folks, you heard, obviously and it happened since the last time we potted, a very tragic and unfortunate incident in the NHL, or it was not in the NHL, regarding a former NHL player.
The EIHL over in England.
In London?
Over in Britain.
Yeah.
Andrew, why am I blanking on Anderson's first name? I'm so sorry, folks.
Adam Johnson.
Adam Johnson. Sorry, Adam Johnson, former Minnesota Duluth hockey player, was playing in the British League. Lost his life due to a wound that he sustained from a skate cutting his throat. And if you haven't seen it yet, I don't recommend watching it.
No,
it's everywhere. You can find it anywhere, but you cannot unsee it. And it's very graphic, and it raises so many questions, not about safety, but about the incident itself and the player, that how it happened and the collision itself. So there's a lot going on with that. But what's transpired recently now are net guards, and a lot of people wearing net guards. USA Hockey is going to be making a decision apparently in the next few days on whether or not to mandate net guards up until the age of 18. So that's been rumored out there. But you've seen players like TJ Oshie, he threw on a net guard pretty quickly. Wyatt Kaiser.
I read somewhere that Patrick Laine has been wearing a net guard since he's been in the league, and no one has really brought it up.
Yeah. I thought it was a mock turtleneck, honestly. I thought it was a Thomas Plekanec thing. Maybe it was a splash.
And didn't Wyatt Kaiser train with Johnson in the offseason? They skate together, right?
Yeah, and they both went to UMD. And then Reese Johnson today at practice was wearing a neck guard.
Yep.
So there's
now, I don't want to derail this conversation. I'd like to continue this, but I have some news that just popped up.
Okay.
Breaking: Jordan Eberle injured by a skate blade cut to his leg in practice today.
Oh
boy.
So this is just more skate blade related injuries. But according to Brent Sopel, this has never happened while he played. But I digress. But this happens all the time, and it's happened a lot. It happened to Zednik. It happened to, Clint Malarchuk. Like it happened.
Carlson, his Achilles.
Yeah,
Eric
it happened.
Carlson's Achilles was severed.
Like this stuff happens. They're wearing razor blade sharp skates, blades on their feet. It's going to happen. And I don't get why there would be any outrage over like protection. Like they make base layer stuff that is skate, cut resistant. Just wear that. That's all you got to do. Just make it a mock turtleneck, and it's as easy as that. Why would anyone would make a big deal about wearing, equipment that was Kane, Evander Kane last year, Jacob Pro. Yeah. So like all these people getting cut, like why just wear the skate resistant or the cut resistant base layer stuff? I mean, like my kid, I had a conversation with him on the way to the rink. I said, we're probably going to have to get you a better neck guard because he has to wear it. The kids, like Wayne Gretzky said yesterday, the kids growing up all wear them. It's not a big deal. Like,
no, well, I think it is
the protective equipment.
In Hockey Canada, it is mandated.
In U.S., like
you have to wear one.
My kid is an A-high, for hockey, and he's mandated he has to wear a neck guard. Yep. It's just a thing. And these kids, a lot of kids, college, like all over the place, it's happening. Like, why don't we just continue it? Just grandfather it in, and people start wearing them.
Gate, we were talking earlier about the Falcons Hockey Association in Chicago, who were once known as the Deerfield Falcons. I mean, they had a neck guard rule when I was playing. It was an organizational rule. You had to wear a neck guard. That was 1991, 92. And it's really like, for those, I mean, if any of you saw the Oshie interview after the game, he's like, doesn't affect me. I didn't even realize it was there. It's not going to change how you're playing. It's not going to change your mental toughness. It's not going to change, these are perceptions. I mean, I'm sure the league went through this when back in the day with helmets, with visors, with ear protectors, with all these things. And now we're talking about something that could really threaten your life. And other than Twitter yahoos, I don't really see a whole lot of, I don't think there's a whole lot of opposition to it. But I think the NHL will continue to make it player choice.
Yeah, well, eventually I think it's going to become a rule. It's going to be like they do with the visors. They do everything slowly in this league. And they say now everybody new coming into the league is going to have to do this. And they phased out the guys with no helmets. They phased out the guys with no visors.
The last guy to do that.
Like that's just the way that it needs to go. It's the sport is faster than it's ever been, and it's only going to get faster. And you're going to get things like this happen. People fall down on the ice. Like we've talked about how many different instances where people have been cut by this stuff, by skates. Your only other choice is them not being on ice. So give them the protective equipment to play the game on the ice and just make it mandatory from now on. And that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Does anybody think the hit was malicious?
I think it was my opinion is it was very careless the way he went in on that. There's no way you should go after somebody the way he went. His legs flying all over the place. Why is that even happening? That is very careless. Do I think malicious? You can't really. It's going to be the court of public opinion on this one.
Yeah.
I just think it was very careless. It was careless on the player. That's my opinion.
I mean, if he was trying to hit somebody, and he ended up flying in horizontally, that to me, like you said, is careless. I mean, why would anybody just try to even do that? This isn't WWE. I mean, it's like, what do you do? A cross body block? I mean, what is this? I looked at it and I'm just like, and somebody said to me, oh yeah, he had intent to injure the guy. And I said, I don't know if he lost his balance. I don't know enough about it to really say that one way or the other. So,
well, it's been noted that he's made some dangerous plays before, but nothing like this. It's been dangerous, like hit to the head kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, he in his junior days, he has swung his leg around like that and tripped up a player, and it was a pretty nasty play.
Okay.
If that stuff happens, like, sure, if you're gonna ban a guy, out of hockey for doing stuff like that, that's great. You want to discourage that kind of behavior, for sure. I'm all for that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I don't know. I want to be very careful around the word malicious. With this incident, if you watch it, I do think there's a lot of opinions around it. I think that the victim's family has voiced that they thought that there was intent there. Now, not intent to, obviously I don't think he was saying, let me get this guy in the neck with my skate, but there was a reckless act that didn't have to happen.
Yeah, it was
reckless and careless, 100%.
Reckless and careless, yeah. And so, I don't. It's really, like I said, I mean, it was a very sensitive topic. There's going to be so many opinions on it. I don't know.
Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one.
Sean,
just add light in the mood. Also, shout out to Clayton and Jacob for the comments.
Yeah, Jacob and Clayton, thank you for the comments. Sean, no, thank you for that one.
Lighten the mood there.
Oh my God. So at any rate, you're going to see more neck guards, folks, and rightly so. I think that's. I know I say rightly so a lot, but.
And it might not even be neck guards. Like I said, it might be just base layer stuff that's cut resistant. They have socks.
the t-shirts that just go up higher, you know, that sort of stuff.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing uncool about that. Anyone who says any of that stuff is like uncool are the same people who support like hazing and all that stuff. That's old school stuff that we learned was bad. Like, this is good. Like, make it.
You're going to
cool.
see a lot of the equipment companies also coming out with new technology. This is just an opportunity for them. You know, I know I don't want to make it into a business story, but that's what's going to happen. So,
company sold out of neck guards after the incident. They sold out.
Yeah,
good.
So they're going to come up with like more innovative ways to wear them, and you know, they're going to be like a headband or you know,
fancier.
You get the color. It's going to be like sponsorship on it or something like that.
I'm all for all of it.
Yeah, why not? Players say like. Especially in hockey with the concussion protocol, like concussions and player safety being such an issue of like they used to tell players like leagues used to lie to players about concussions, and now people don't want to wear something to protect them from blades. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
anyone.
No, for sure.
I mean, it's going to be faster. It's going to be, you know, I don't know. Skates are going to be lighter. There's going to be more bodies flying around. It's just, it is going to happen again. And I don't, you know, I really don't like the term freak accident. People, it's just a freak accident. Well, you know what, folks, freak accidents happen in every facet of life. They happen. And it's going to happen again. There's going to be another quote unquote freak accident on the ice. And
this was think about this too, guys. This wasn't televised. Like this wasn't, imagine if this happens in the NHL or Hockey Night in Canada or something like that. How many people watching that are going to see this and have their like lives change forever? How many people watched Damar Hamlin?
That's exactly what I thought of when you said that.
Yeah, so it's got to be like player safety's got to be one of the most important things. Neck guards and anything to protect players. It's got to be number one priority. And yes, people are going to make a ton of money on it. And more power to those companies capitalizing.
Yeah, good. Keep them safer. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're cheap little trinkets. Like it should be nothing. It's like, you know, what, $10 or something? Walk into a pro shop, throw it on. There's nothing to it, man.
I saw like
it's so easy.
CCM ones were $17.99 on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you can, there's all sorts of types. And honestly, and folks, parents, if you've got kids, the younger you start this, the more used to it they are. And it just becomes a part of getting dressed every day. The more you resist, the more your kid will resist for years to come. Throw it on them.
I mean, I know I'm in the minority, but I would rather them wear full face protection. Like, I don't want to see guys get hurt. I don't want to see players getting their teeth knocked out. I don't want to see them getting hit in the face with pucks. I don't want to see eyes being, you know, getting destroyed because of stuff like that. I'd rather have them wear cages. Like, you know, they complain it doesn't look cool or whatever, but like, hey, you know, you got a life after this. Do you want to be able to see? Do you want to be Brian Bedard, who, you know, had his, you know, eye taken pretty much by a freak accident? Like, I want the players to be healthy. I want the high players to be healthy. I want them to be around for a long time. I want to see these great players play for long periods of their career. That's all I want to see, you know?
And I think several years ago, NBC executive was upset about the beards, like just be covering their faces, but like beards, like neck, face protection, you'd still be able to have be able to market the player with his actual face as opposed to like the bushy beard covering and stuff like that. So I think marketing and TV and stuff, I think they'd be for it too, just because it would help them market the game.
Yeah. Because
I know when my wife watches Patrick Sharp on telecast, she's riveted. So, I mean.
Well, after the 6th Sean Fitzgerald comment meant by silence, I think this.
I put the soundboard away because I knew it wasn't even worthy anymore.
Oh, well.
Yeah, no, stuff. Good stuff, Shawnee. Good stuff. All right. Hey, thanks, folks, for joining us tonight. We obviously had a lot to talk about and some really good points by all. And so the Blackhawks are playing.
Except for Sean.
Hey, the first topic was fine. I had some good points there.
So So the Blackhawks are against the Tampa Bay Lightning tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Good luck to our poor Hawks. That one might be an ugly one, but let's at least hope some of the kids have good games and they can carry on. Anyway, on behalf of the Rinkcast, Shawnee, Jeff, Eric, Bardo, I'm Andy Campbell. Everyone have a great night, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Corey Perry revenge game tomorrow.